are you?
I'm doing okay. I got a haircut, Sam.
Yeah, I
You
did.
know,
I did see that.
yeah.
It's kind of funny. We get together at 6 o'clock
Hmm.
to spend some time with our friends online, and our offices next to each other's offices. We talk, but we don't even say hello and relax until 6 o'clock,
Well, yeah.
and until we start talking, then we're just relaxing
Well, usually it happens about 15 to 20 minutes before this. We'll start talking, and then
a little bit, but
about
not much.
well, yeah, about 2 minutes to go, we'll go. Oh, shoot! Go back to our respective
Yeah.
computers to get going.
Yes. So
Yeah.
how was your July 4th?
Uneventful the way I like it. I don't like the loud of it all, and thus I just try to have a quiet evening. I'm not a fireworks kind of guy, Sam. I'll enjoy the day off.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, I agree with you. So, when I was younger, I enjoyed it. We went down to the firework with our kids, and we looked at it, and we did wow, wow. It was pretty cool.
Well, I'm like the dog, Sam. I'll go and hide. I don't like it.
Yeah,
The dogs and the cats don't like the fireworks.
my dog doesn't like it. Yeah.
Sam, it's not I can handle the fireworks on the 4th of July. It's that everybody in the neighborhood thinks they're a pyrotechnic expert for the entire week, and I have to deal with hearing them set off fireworks. It's not the July 4th I had the problem with. It's the July 2nd, the July 3rd, the July
July
5th,
5th.
and 6th, all through it. And until they use up the what they have, um, we're going to still be waiting for it. So, shall we get into what our topic is for today, Sam? In case it's not clear by the heading on the YouTube.
Q&A Monday.
Q&A Monday. We haven't done one of these for a while, where we're just going to hang out here and try to get through every question that people give us
Yeah.
here
Yes.
for the hour.
Well, let's allow these questions to come through,
Yeah, and we can sort of
and maybe
have
have,
our conversation.
have a discussion about what do you think about this. Is Trump better or Biden better for immigration law?
Hmm. Well, um, okay. Then maybe let's talk about what maybe I can't say one's better, and there's definitely perspective on this thing, but I will tell you my perspective on the Trump administration of prior, and what it's been like since. The Trump administration, in terms of employment, immigration, in terms of our audience here, that's kind of what most people here are interested in, was not nice on the subject of employment and immigration. Um, I would say, in the world of the law, we deal with the laws, we deal with regulations, we deal with policy, and amongst that, there's some case law as well. And there was no changes in the law, really, with an immigration law or even regulations with the last Donald Trump administration. But we sure did see some changes in implementation of regulation and ultimately policy, where I'm sure people out there know that in terms of say H1B visas, a massive uptick in those during the Donald Trump denials of those in the Donald Trump administration, including much increased RFEs, etc. Um, I mean, there are other sort of fun immigration things, to jog your memory, Sam. There's the enhanced public charge rule that was a bit unpleasant, but that was really kind of the end of it from my perspective. From
Well,
the employment
H1B denial is
huge.
is a house wrecker. I
Yeah,
mean, I mean, people been
get rid
here
of the
for like
people.
8 9 years,
Yeah, get rid of the
and
people. Get
then
rid of
they
their
had
green
to
card
leave,
too.
pick up
Yeah,
and leave.
yeah.
Uh,
That was huge. Now, a lot of what the Donald Trump administration did on H1B stuff during their own administration was undone during their administration by that group called the IT Serve Alliance, who basically challenged them in court so many of their H1B policies, and a court thwapped them across the nose and said basically pretty much everything you've done in terms of H1B policy is illegal, and
illegal.
illegal, and resulted in a awesome sort of turnover of policy, basically undoing 10 years of USCIS H1B policy on the subjects of vendor and client letters and that sort of thing. So,
But the proposed regulations that they came out with subsequent to that
mhm.
were basically suicidal for future H1Bs.
Oh yeah, there was planning on changing the way how the prevailing wages were calculated. There was the rewriting of the H1B rules, employer-employer relationship.
So the prevailing wage recalculation would have basically cut off the bottom half of the H1B
Yeah, yeah.
potential applicants coming from that the IT companies
I
need.
guess I mean I'm trying I'm kind of going through my memory here, but that did happen temporarily where there was a change in the prevailing wage data, as I recall, that forced a lot of employers to either deal with the concept that the employers that the deal with the concept that they're going to have to pay their employees a whole lot more based upon those recalculated prevailing wages, or use alternative wage surveys for their H1Bs.
One of the ideas he came out with looks like both of us are negative. I'm trying to find somebody who's one of us trying to speak in a positive way, but you and I looks like jumping on the same track.
Yeah.
But the one of the ideas he proposed, or his administration proposed, is doing a bidding, an H1B bidding. So the selection of the 85,000 or 65,000 on the from the highest number down.
Mhm. Goes to the
Uh,
most paid person.
yeah, it goes to the most paid person and then come down. That
It's
is devastating for
well,
employers.
yeah. At first blush, it sounds like a real good idea, but then ultimately, all of the visas are going to go to Silicon Valley folks exclusively in IT occupations.
Well, not only that, but a lot of people are going to get hired and get fired shortly thereafter because the
Yeah,
companies cannot afford them.
yeah, yeah.
And then you have the same issue.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I guess I was saying let's not live in the past. Although in terms of presidential
With the
politics, our past might be our future as well. Um,
Not well. I'll add two more things to
okay,
that, and then maybe we'll answer those questions, and we'll get back to this topic
yeah.
as we wait
'Cause
for
I
more
want to talk
questions
about
to
the
come in.
current administration, what they've done or what they haven't done. In terms of
Well, but just to kind of be fair, two things in
oh
my
yeah,
mind. Number one, it wasn't Donald Trump that did that. It was the people he appointed because
sure,
what he's not a detail guy.
yeah,
He's just say, "Hey, you're a good man. You understand what it is that I need to accomplish here. Go and do it."
yeah.
And then he's completely in a different direction, has absolutely no idea what's going on.
Hmm.
So that's going to happen again. I think he's going to appoint people who are
Aligned with
conservative
his vision.
minded.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, either aligned with his vision or were instrumental in his election and therefore
Preferential placement
gets
in a
a
job.
job,
Yeah,
and that person can run crazy with it and until they figure out what the hell happened.
well,
So that's one thing. So
yeah,
it's not him, but it's the fact that he is not a kind of an oversight kind of a guy that
yeah,
is a little bit concerning,
yeah,
that creates unpredictability as to
yeah.
what to expect. So that's one point I wanted to make. The second point I wanted to make is, and again, it could be the opposite, where because he may not be running for election again, but you never know, he may
Yeah.
decide to run a third time for election and take that constitutional challenge all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and see what happens. I won't be surprised, but
Yeah.
what do I know? I'm not a politician. But he's not running for election again, more than likely,
Yeah.
and therefore he doesn't really care about the people that necessarily
Next
voted for
generation of
him.
voters. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to care about
Whatever he wants.
what's the right thing to do, maybe, or what he thinks the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So that creates further element of unpredictability. It could be
Yeah.
more serious on one
Well,
side or the other.
I would just say we were very focused in on, kind of H1B during our conversation of the negatives there. But I mean, there's so many things that the prior administration didn't really cast a bother on. Perm and labor certification, green card petitions in general, family immigration. The only spot it was really kind of negatively touched was, adding that public charge rule. And that was honestly relatively easy to. It's just honestly a more information request, but I didn't really
Well, he
see.
did the Muslim ban,
Yeah, yeah,
which affected about
lots of well, yeah,
one third of the globe.
Yeah, I guess I would say, in terms of unpredictability, that was a major part of that. It's, well, he announced it, and what did it
wasted
mean?
so much time,
What did it
and
mean?
litigation and
There are
blah
people who are
blah.
green card holders who didn't know what it means, and the customs folks
Yeah,
didn't know what it meant as
yeah.
well. Especially,
Chaos. I guess
yeah,
chaos is what I would describe what we've experienced.
yeah.
Chaos.
Well, Sam, do we expect chaos next time around for them?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll
Yeah.
expect chaos. I think chaos is not going to change. I think it's just that's his
Well,
style.
I think change is chaos for sure at the very least,
Yeah,
and there will be change if he is reelected. So, Sam, maybe those questions have been percolating for a little bit. Maybe we take some of those here,
sure.
and because I
Yep.
wanted to turn to the topic of his presidential competitor as well.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good. That will be the second time we come
we
back to the
pause.
topic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, from AN, my priority date is current on I-45 AOS, and I have 5-year AP. I am praying for my case to be approved anytime soon, but I have to travel outside the country. What are the pros and cons? How do I enter if the green card is issued? That's a classic question. The sort of that keeps you, wakes you up in the middle of the night when you, when, well, when you're looking for, when your brain's looking for a problem, right? Sam, how do you approach it? If what about the threat of getting your green card approved while you're outside the United States? Planning to come back using your advanced parole.
So we've had a lot of people throughout the years experience that. So this
Yeah,
is not something that is new,
yeah,
and it will all continue to happen.
sure.
So we have not had any documented issue with it whatsoever.
No, yeah, I've given the advice you're going to give, many times on this front, and never heard any complaints. Yeah,
Yeah, come back with the advance parole. Come back with your approval notice. Ask to be processed as a U.S. permanent resident coming in,
yeah,
and 99% of the time you will be. If they are not smart enough to do that, let them admit you as a parolee and meet with your lawyer to figure it out,
yeah,
which we can easily figure that one
yeah,
out. You get your green card and come back and leave and come back again,
yeah, yeah. Basically,
and get admitted as a permanent resident.
hit the border with the soft copy of your approval notice, and I mean, they're human beings. Hey, I was outside of the United States, and my green card got approved. What do you want me to do? Uh, I mean, the worst case scenario,
Would
they
you
can.
have him mail that card to you?
That's sort of like a last resort, because what I don't want to have is you have lost your
Lose a
green
damn thing.
card in the mail, because it's a nightmare to get a replacement anything from USCIS.
Yeah.
And
Maybe a copy of it.
yeah,
Maybe get a
have a
high
friend.
quality scan copy of
Yeah,
it, and
yeah,
then walk in with it and say it's in the U.S. I don't have it on me. It
yeah,
came in the mail. I did not want to have
yeah.
it shipped overseas.
I mean, basically, the advice I've always given historically is, go to them with your advanced parole, explain to them what has happened, and again, nobody, I've never had anybody come back and say, Ryan, that didn't work. I don't hear from them again. It's because it does work.
Yeah,
You know, yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah,
All right. So, is there a rule, right? U.S.
yeah,
immigration
yeah. The U.S. immigration from is
is a
there.
rule where J2 should not help J1 in basic need. Example: house rent.
So, well, this is the part of the presentation where I could go, I haven't thought about J2 work authorization, and apparently J2 is authorized, right? And
There is no rule.
yeah,
There's absolutely no such rule where J2 cannot take J1 for dinner or lunch
yeah,
or house rent. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, employment authorization is available. Well, I mean, let's talk. Well, Sam, if you're J2 work authorized, right? There's nothing stopping you from contributing to rent and other things.
Yeah.
However, I guess you have to be J2 work authorized in order to earn money in the United States. I guess if you're bringing money to the United States, if you're on J2 status and you're bringing money to you with the United States already, there's nothing that stops you from spending that money on whatever your heart's intent says, including house rent.
When you get your J1 visa, the financial piece is analyzed by the embassy, by the consulate, and to their satisfaction.
Yeah,
Now, there's not a requirement that you must spend the money that way, and there's no component to calculate or built into any income for the J2.
yeah,
The J2 comes in, they get a job. Yeah, if the J2 has a triple PhD and they're making $500,000 on the J2 work authorization,
Who,
fine.
who cares?
That's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
If they are a wonderful human being but happen to be with limited education and they're working at Walmart making 14 bucks an hour, so be it.
indeedy.
Both of them can contribute to the extent they
Yeah,
ultimately it's their money, Mr. J1 or Mrs. J1, and their J2 will decide how to spend their money the way they believe is appropriate.
yeah. I
The
mean,
immigration law is not going to dictate that.
yeah. I mean, these are kind of issues of domestic relations, and I wonder in this scenario, is this something like a divorce scenario along because we often get calls relating to, hey
Well,
Brian.
a divorce terminate the J2
Yeah,
status.
that's something that comes up. And I mean, we got a lot of calls about, well, hey Brian, what happens if I get divorced in the United States? And that's a big challenge there. It's you get yourself out of a relationship, but you would potentially lose your means to maintain status in the United States for sure. It's a challenge.
And you should leave right away
Yeah,
as a J2. I had a J2 who was both were foreign doctors,
I remember.
and
Yeah,
J1 and J2 his relationship didn't work out. They came here; it was too stressful, and they got a divorce. So the J2, who is was a also foreign medical graduate, went back and applied for a J1 of their own,
yeah.
and they were interviewed at the consulate and issued a J1, and they came back.
Well, cool story about the J1s and J2 or J1 programs will sometimes come with a return home requirement. That you have to return to your home country for 2 years after you've been in the United States, your J1 period. One of the cool things is they can waive those. They can waive that return home requirement for a variety of reasons. And one of the more obscure ones is your the J1's return home requirement would normally attach to the J2, but in the case of divorce, you can make a compelling argument for them to waive your return home requirement. So it's you get divorced and you change to another status in the United States because
There's
because
no,
you can.
yeah.
Yeah, it makes for interesting immigration paths for that spouse, for example. It's well, you're saying I'm saying goodbye to you. You have a return home requirement. I just got it waived because you divorced me, and I'm going to go join, I don't know, a public institution on an H1B visa because I can. You know.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
yeah. So from Ratchet. Me and my spouse have valid visa stamp until April 2025. I'm planning to do international travel to India from November 23rd to December 20th, 2024. Can I apply for visa/EAD renewal before we travel to India? So, visa. Sam, I love these Q&A sessions, Sam, because we have a little bit more freedom and time to talk about things. What's the status of that pilot program for applying for visas within the United States, Sam?
They're tinkering with the wings before it takes off.
I have a metaphor, Sam. I'm going to call it a kamikaze pilot program because it only goes once. You know,
It's a shuttle. It explodes in midair.
it's a one way trip kind of pilot
Nobody's
program.
talking about it anymore.
Yeah, it was. Are they going to expand that? Are they going to return to that? Are they going to make that available again? We haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
You know, EAD renewal. While an green card EAD renewal is pending. There is nothing that keeps you in the United States while that green card EAD is pending. You must be in the United States to apply for it. I guess I would say the paranoia is that you're going to get an RFE and not answer it while you're outside the country.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you've done it through a lawyer, your lawyer will get it,
That's very true.
and they will take care of it for you and contact you and help you.
Yeah,
Everything is electronic. You don't have to be here to respond to the RFE,
this is true.
etc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
All
Well,
right. So tell me about Trump, Brian.
try
Well, let's
Biden.
talk about Biden.
Yeah.
See,
Sorry.
Biden, you want to say good things about Biden? Looks like
No,
to
I
me.
don't. I want to say nothing about him. It's when we came into the Biden administration, the Donald Trump administration had a whole lot of their programs shut down by the court, right? And they kind of went out with a whimper rather than a roar in terms of their immigration policy. I would say respectfully to them, they didn't accomplish much, right? And we were kind of actually, when we came into the Joe Biden administration, in a new status quo, at least in an employment-based immigration scenario, where they weren't doing anything. They couldn't. The USCIS had its hands tied, especially on H-1B visas, of their ability to meddle, question anything. And if I had to perceive, if I perceive USCIS / Department of Homeland Security as, they don't like having the ability to not do anything and not really have much power to look into H-1B visas. So I kind of expected the new administration to put out some regulations that would replace all the old policy that was rescinded, knocked out in the court. And as close as they got, Sam, was they published some regulations, which we talked about maybe a year ago, I think, and crickets. It's another classic case of, oh yes, we're definitely going to regulate on H-1B visas, and
Well, they got some pushback when they published it because they didn't do a good job publishing it, because they basically copied some of the Trump stuff
yeah,
and published it. So one
yeah,
of the things that they've published that they got a lot of pushback on, and then they backed off, is the restrictive
uh,
requirement on H-1B
education and occupation.
specialty occupation,
Yeah,
where you must have this specific degree to get at the H-1B, whereas the
law.
actual
Yeah, yeah.
practice in this country is not so. So, for example, our most popular one is the IT, information technology. 75, 60%, 50%, 90%, whatever the percentage you might want to look for of professionals that are doing IT are not computer science graduates in the US.
Hmm.
That's by the virtue of the fact that there is a major shortage.
Yeah.
And there is an accepted practice of having people with engineering degrees. Well, with this new H-1B rules, they would have required a computer science degree to get an H-1B in information technology. It overlooks also the fact that there's a lot of cross disciplines.
Hmm.
People with technical background, but with a pharmacy degree, can do information technology, developing maybe pharmaceutical
Yeah,
products,
yeah.
and so forth and so on.
But
So
yeah,
they
that
backed
policy
they
would
backed out of it.
yeah, that policy would seem to rob us of our ability to make those nuanced arguments. I can think of a great one. We have a client that does, that offers computer systems for engineering firms, right? Those positions are software people, but you can do that with an engineering degree, mechanical engineering degree and experience, or a software degree and mechanical engineering experience, and
Yeah.
that sort of nuance is definitely lost under that. But what else have we gotten from the? I don't know. I expected
I
some
mean,
sort of
cars
change.
cars is becoming nothing but a big computer.
Yeah.
I mean, also, a Tesla is nothing but a computer
Yeah. Yeah.
on wheels.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you have to have a mechanical engineering degree. That's stupid.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's take the next question.
Yeah. Okay. So, hello, Sam and Brian. Can you enter the U.S. with a green card and a passport from not from your country of birth, from second country that holds citizenship from? Thanks. Oh, that's a novel question.
Well, absolutely, you can,
Yeah.
as long as these documents are authentic and accurate. So, if you are, for example, born in, let's assume, in India,
Hmm.
but you acquired a UK citizenship
Hmm.
and you live in the UK, you can use the passport and enter the US as a UK citizen. As a matter of fact,
I've got you, Sam. You can only enter the United States as a UK citizen because the Indian government doesn't honor dual citizenship. I've
no,
got.
but he was born there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
Well, there you
I'll
go.
change the fact
There you go.
From Pakistan.
Okay.
I'll
Pakistan,
change it.
you win.
Yeah.
You win. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then UK citizen.
Yeah.
Then you can enter the US.
Yeah.
Um, that's a smart answer, Brian. I like it.
It's
Yeah.
we focus our practice on
Yeah.
U.S. immigration, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we are
Sure.
aware of certain rules in other countries, and India
Yeah.
does not allow dual citizenship.
Correct. Absolutely. So, so you can enter as a UK citizen. However, when you apply for green card, you are treated as a Indian Pakistani born
Yeah,
in
well,
this case,
you will be in
for
whatever queue.
purposes of visa availability.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I can think of scenarios where you maybe uh, you have to. I mean, I'm going to think of an example of certain scenarios where you're required to use a certain country, even if you have multiple ones. If you are on a visa that is only applicable to people from certain countries. So, for example, let's say you're Canadian and UK citizen, right? And you want to enter the United States on a TN visa. you're using your Canadian passport. If you're
You
entering
must. Yeah,
on an E1, E2, E3 visa, you must use the qualifying treaty countries. E3 for, for Australia, and E3, E2, whatever country you're from, to enter the United States that way. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. So there's always some fun little nuances to those
Yep.
things like that. So the next one we have, it looks to be a repeat, and which I'm going to skip over. We got that one from Ratchet. And from RK, have you gentlemen had a chance to look at the March/April's pending I-485 for employment from USCIS? So USCIS, I think they call it on the USCIS data hub. No,
We haven't
US,
looked at it, no, but I would be interested if Arcade drops us a couple notes,
yeah,
and we can definitely comment on it. But maybe that's something that we can look into and bring it up next time we talk.
yeah. This is actually relatively recently published, just on July 3rd, just on last Wednesday. There's apparently a report of pending employment-based preference categories as of May 17th, 2024. And that seems to be interesting to look at for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, and I'll keep it moving on though. Is now I've gone and downloaded that report. Now Excel has taken over my computer. There we are. Um, from Shandi, an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah. Um, Domestic violence, a misdemeanor in the first degree in violation of 2919.25 of the Ohio Revised Code, and assault, a misdemeanor in the first degree in violation of ORC 2903.13. So I don't see the rest of this question, Sam.
I don't think you have to see it. The question is, what's the impact of a potential conviction under these codes on my as a non-immigrant, as a non-permanent
Sure.
resident?
And the answer
Uh,
is a lot.
so, 2919.25. No person shall knowingly cause or attempt to cause physical harm to a family or a household member. No person shall recklessly cause serious physical harm to a family or household member.
Mhm.
No person by threat or force shall knowingly cause a family or household member to believe that the offender will cause imminent physical harm to the family or household member. It seems to closely mirror the language in the federal domestic violence statute. And therefore, a conviction, and again, um, what I'm saying here requires really a deep look before you can assume that. But I'm comfortable to say that, in the statute, the federal statute talks about family member or somebody you're cohabiting with,
Mhm.
even broader than that one.
Yeah.
This one here is family or household member, and then it has to do with attempt to cause or cause physical damage with the reckless intent, with the knowing intent, um, not negligent intent.
Yeah.
So with that, that domestic violence is a serious problem for you if you are convicted with these
Yeah.
with this statute.
Yeah, I'll hit the nail on the head. Basically, a domestic violence conviction can make one deportable from the United States. That means they can initiate removal proceedings against an individual. Um, and depends upon who we're talking to and who the context. But we usually talk about employment immigration. How can this impact, Sam? I mean,
Yeah. Well, just a quick comment so everybody knows 2903.13, very similar
mhm,
to 2919.25, except that it's not for a family member, it's for
gotcha,
anybody else.
gotcha.
But the impact is serious on your immigration. It could really make you non adjustable.
Yeah,
You cannot adjust your status in the U.S. Because of a conviction under 2919.25.
yeah,
And also, it will have a serious impact on stamping,
yes,
um, um, you know, and a conviction is a problem, and expungement does not fix it. So people think, well, but mine is expunged, is
Yeah.
no longer available.
Nobody
It
can see
doesn't.
it.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, literally on the green card application, there's it says, "Have you ever blah 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 criminal?" And it doesn't matter if it was expunged or sealed or whatever. I would note, Sam, you kind of are in immigration paralysis if you have a case like this, because there's also, we've seen this come up in H1B extensions, where they say it's come to our attention, that XYZ domestic violence charges against you. We are, and they will engage in the very rare, we're going to exercise our discretion and choose not to extend your I-94 because you have that on your record, for example.
So if there has not been a conviction and you're going through the case with with an attorney, you need to engage an immigration lawyer and hopefully be able to bargain this down to something less problematic for you. But be aware that also the concept of conviction under immigration law is a little bit different than the concept of conviction under
Yeah,
Ohio law.
yeah,
You could be deemed convicted without a judge saying you're guilty
yeah,
if you admitted to the elements based on the record of the case. So
yeah,
it's complicated, and there's a lot of good immigration lawyers, criminal lawyers that know about immigration law. There's a lot more good criminal lawyers that know nothing about immigration law, and you need to engage an immigration attorney, in my opinion, to help you out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's I guess, yeah, I would just elaborate and say might sound like a good deal in terms of jail time or paying fines, etc., might not be a good deal in terms of the immigration consequences of it. Sometimes, you know, what might seem worse to you on its face is better because you don't render yourself inadmissible or deportable from the country. Yeah. So I'm going to keep it going here with a question from Naren, who has good news. Um, Came here to tell you I got my green card approved last week. You had also helped me with my previous employee to file, probably employer to file multiple H1 extensions. Thank you both for your valuable advice and guidance you provide. Well,
Wow,
yeah,
wonderful.
congratulations, Naren.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Good
yeah,
news. Thank you for sharing. Wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
Happy for you.
Citizenship in 5 years, Naren.
Citizenship 5 years, 9 months short of 5 years. You can apply for citizenship.
Is it 9 months? I thought it was
90
90 days.
days.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
90 days.
yeah, yeah.
And also enjoy the freedom of not having any green card process over your head,
Yeah,
which you have carried on your shoulder for, I'm sure, over a decade.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Every time every time I talk to somebody when they get their green card, Sam, I call them up and say, "Oh, you're having a good day." Well, of course you're having a good day because you just told me you got a green card, so congratulations, and take a breath.
And last point for Naren, learn about the preservation of the green card process. We have a couple of videos on that talks about the preservation of the green card process. There's a lot of wrong information out there
Yeah,
that people talk about that's not exactly accurate. So that's something you should probably learn
yeah,
about and be familiar with.
yeah. Because I guess what most people don't understand is that just because you become a permanent resident, it is possible for you to lose it,
Yeah,
essentially.
for example, a domestic violence, of course, that's not you,
Yeah,
and hopefully never, but a conviction under 29 19, whatever that code
yeah,
is,
yeah,
under the Higher Bylaws 2919.25, for example, as a permanent resident would render a permanent resident deportable,
yeah,
even though you get your permanent residency. It's not until you're become a U.S. citizen that these uh, uh, unfortunate convictions will have no impact
yeah,
on your future in this
yeah,
country.
yeah.
All right, excellent. RK, Brian.
Yeah, RK sort of asked a question that we sort of touched upon. Does the home residence requirement apply to J2 dependents? And
It does. It does, Brian. And like you said, a potential divorce can undo it. But the unfortunate one, it applied to the children as well.
yeah,
And you cannot undo that.
yeah,
Now, but here's the crazy thing. So it's not that the child has to spend 2 years outside the country, or is the parent has to satisfy?
you're going to have to I'm gonna have to say that's outside of my memory banks, Mr. Shihab, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's escaping me.
yeah.
The answer to that question. It's escaping me the answer to that question. I think maybe both. I don't remember. But yeah,
I
it's
think
it gets complicated for children who leave the U.S. and I think the parents have to satisfy it. I don't remember.
yeah.
But yes, it does apply to the children as well. It's a
Yeah,
pretty harsh rule.
yeah. Well, I'm looking at this scenario, and I'm presuming that RK is the person who asked the question earlier. Actually no, it's RK is not. I'm intrigued by whether again a relationship. We've advised people on like relationships breaking up while on J2, J1, and J2, and it's rough because though you and I talk about the concept of getting a waiver of the J2, of the return home requirement for the divorce for the spouse who gets a divorce. The practical matter, Sam, is it seems like mechanically you have like a problem of can you get that waiver? I mean, the problem is in order to get that waiver, you have to be divorced, right? And in order to be divorced, you fall out of status, meaning can you get that from inside the United States? And that's a sort of a tough nut to crack, you know?
Dependents cannot apply for the waiver separately from the J1. The J2 cannot apply for the waiver separately
Yeah,
from the J1. But if the J1 waives, the J2 is waived as well,
yeah,
which is even very harsh. So
yeah.
the dependents is kind of stuck. Children,
I wonder if that divorce loophole would go to the kids though. I mean, think of it
it
this way.
doesn't.
You really? How can it, but okay, hypothetical scenario, Sam. I love hypothetical scenarios. Okay, J1 and J2, and two kids, right? So J1 and J2 get divorced. These two kids. It turns out it's easier for my hands if they have three kids, right? And J2 is awarded custody. She gets this is the wife gets the return home requirement waived. Can she return? She can return to the United States, but the kids can't come back with her. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me.
I agree.
Fair enough. Well, again, my hypothetical doesn't require a definitive answer. But I've only read the policy. I've only read the policy as to spouses, and I'm not sure how that scenario would apply
Yeah.
to children. But I would hope that you'd be able to extend that benefit to the children.
I mean, you can argue it, but obviously, custody and all that is one sphere. Immigration law is another sphere, and they don't always connect.
Yeah, I would bet. Yeah, I would bet if because I haven't looked at the waiver at their criteria for waiver of the return home requirement. I know there's a couple reasons why you can. I would bet that they probably have sort of a catch-all category for that. That would because we feel
Potentially.
like it. Yeah, yeah.
All right, Ram R.
Ram are indeedy.
Why advanced parole renewal processing is taking so long? Green card EAD renewal is getting processed within a couple of weeks. Please clarify. Well, the advanced parole, it's taking long because it's in the government's interpretation that they must review your entire immigration history and determine you're not subject to any grounds of inadmissibility. And that is a very difficult review process.
Yeah,
So, meaning because they don't want to give you a permission to re-enter the United States when you are not permitted, because you've made a, God forbid, a criminal violation or an immigration violation or a medical issue that would render you inadmissible. So they have to go and do all kind of reviews to make sure that they are issuing it correctly, which is stupid.
yeah. Whereas I would question the premise of EAD renewal coming in a couple of weeks because I guess Ramar, if you've gotten that, I would say great and good for you. But USCIS.gov has their processing times online, and one of the frequent talking points I will do when I'm doing, say, a family-based green card consultation is I will tell somebody, what the processing times, because usually it's their spouse wants a green card. I'll tell them what the processing times are, and they're not really pleasant for an I-765. I think the lowest service center for a family-based green card in terms of processing times is 3 months, whereas the rest are more than that. But I would say in renewal scenarios, I think they're a lot faster, and maybe that's what Ram is talking
Maybe his
about.
statement is rhetorical more so than actual.
Well,
It's a lot. They're a lot faster with EAD than advanced parole. Explain why.
I would give you that one, Ram. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
immigration.
immigration. That's a good handle. That's a good handle for this
Yeah.
this venue.
I'm currently on H1B, but have my EAD and advanced parole pending adjustment status. Can
Hmm.
I take up an advisory board role with a startup for an engagement of 1 hour a month in exchange for equity in addition to current employment? Well, yes, of course you can. Brian, explain.
Well, I'm gonna give the qualifications on Sam's answer because you have an EAD. You have an EAD with a that EAD you get with your pending adjustment status is unlimited. You can be a janitor, you can be a president, or you can also be an advisor board in an advisory role, an advisor on the board getting paid in equity in the business. I guess Sam, uh, I think the idea, the question that immigration is asking is, would that be considered employment that would be outside of my H1B visa?
And that's probably the question being asked.
Yeah,
And the answer is, um, in the very technical sense, yes.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm
that,
inclined to agree on
yeah,
that
in a
one.
very technical sense, it is employment outside. It will probably not have any impact on your adjustment status, but technically,
Oh
you've
yeah, for sure.
stepped outside the H1B. Um,
Yeah, I have
yeah,
to agree with you because I see advising in exchange for compensation of which is equity. That sounds like employment to me. That's what the general definition
yeah,
is. It's working for labor for remuneration,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
You're not doing it for free, or you're not doing it because it's a hobby, or you're not doing it as a volunteer. You're receiving something of benefit in return for your role
yeah.
and the information you have, or your ability to provide an input to a board.
Well, Sam, we're sort of waxing poetic about the significance of is that outside of H1B, but immigration has a very simple question for us. How do you go about doing this? Please advise.
What do you mean? How we go about
Well,
this?
he it's about actually taking on the advisory role, and my answer is simple. You have an EAD, do it. You
Yeah,
know,
just do it. But
yeah,
just understand that you should not file for an H1B extension
yeah,
because you're not on H1B anytime.
yeah,
And they have to do, if they got their act together, they have to do an I-9 for you.
yeah, yeah. I would say that's not a crazy
But
crazy thing to do.
they may consider you a non independent contractor.
Yeah,
A lot of these advisory boards are not on payroll, are not employed. Many of them are,
yeah,
and especially with a startup, probably they're not going to. They're going to say, "Hey, you get 5%. Show up, help us put these things together. Let's talk about this, and that, and we'll give you 5%." It's informal, and in this case, there's no employer-employee relationship, but there is employment in the U.S.
hmm
because you're basically working as an independent
yeah.
contractor.
I guess Sam, is there any obligation to this individual has to their current H1B employer? Like, must they notify them of? Must they say HR department? I'm no longer in H1B status. Here's my. Do they have to update their I-9?
Well, I wouldn't call it an legal obligation. I would call it probably, yeah, some kind of an obligation. There's no law that says you must notify, but it's you. I think there's a law that says you have to appraise your employer with the
Yeah, I
the basis of your employment ability to be employed in the U.S. Clearly, it's not the H-1B.
yeah. I mean, yeah. That's if
I wouldn't say there's an obligation.
I wouldn't really terribly worry about it because the I-9 is really the employer's obligation, not the employee's obligation.
He
But
clearly does not want to share that with his employer, Brian. If he's working with a startup and he's having a knowledge base that this company has, they may have a policy against things like that, and though the employer may feel like, oh, this guy is taking some trade secret, it's sensitive topics.
mhm,
So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't think that there's a legal obligation to do it.
yeah, yeah. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not really. I think it. I mean, I think at the bottom line, where's the last line of defense on this? The last conversation this has had is, if there's a USCIS officer that is reviewing your green card case, because that's where it matters most, right? and they would say, "Ooh, is this person, is this person, does it matter? No, who cares? You were work authorized. We don't care what the employer thinks. You
Yeah.
know, they if they go if ICE is going to round up people at a manufacturing facility, they won't care. They won't care if your employer and lied on your I-9 fraudulently completed I-9 forms. If you can produce an EAD or a green card that says you are authorized to work, it's not a you problem. It's a them problem. You know. Yeah. So from U.S. Immigrant, everybody has good handles. Sam,
Mm-hmm.
immigration, U.S. immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
My spouse is going to change her status from J1 clinical to J1 research. Will this interrupt my EAD?
So she has an EAD in hand,
Yeah.
and the question is changing from a J1 research to a J1 clinical or vice versa has an impact. Do I have to apply for a new EAD? Is the prior EAD was rendered
Yeah.
invalid? The
Yeah.
answer is no.
Yeah.
It
I
has
don't
no
see it.
impact on your EAD.
Yeah. The change in the J1 programs are probably going to happen without a filing anyway.
Anything,
Yeah.
especially if you're with the same institution.
Yeah.
Like like you're working for a university,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
doing a J1 clinical, now you're doing J1 research within the same institution. They don't do anything. This is all internal stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has no impact.
Yeah, I have. I think the next one from RK is a pretty good question.
When will they publish the new H1B regulation? Well, um, nobody is publishing anything. This current administration, and until unless they are reelected, there's nothing going to happen this year. I think everybody's running around
I
trying
would
to
agree.
trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Are we going to be having the same president? Are we having everybody? It's a crazy year.
I would agree. I don't think they get those regulations. We're already in July. There's an election in November. I don't think they get those regulations. I mean, the Donald Trump folks put out regulations, in like December of 2020 with or whenever it was with the expectation that they might be in office for a second term, and the next administration just said nah, and undid them. I guess it's possible.
The Obama administration put something that became effective after he left.
The January 1st, 2017
Yeah,
ones,
yeah.
yeah, and they just
And,
didn't
and
undo
there's
them.
yeah.
That's how where
So
we got the H1B grace period.
I just don't see this administration though. I mean, they cannot get this federal register on the Biden family unity thing.
Yeah,
We haven't heard the thing about that.
yeah, that was announced on June 17th, and I would hope that so just to remind everybody, on June 17th, President Biden announced, an sort of expansion of their humanitarian parole policy, so that individuals who have been president in the United States for 10 years and married to a United States citizen as of June 17th, 2024, could get paroled in the United States and apply for a green card without leaving the country. And they said there will be a publication in the Federal Register soon. They never, I mean, I presume soon. I was hoping within a matter of days, but, you
The
know,
thing is written already.
yeah,
It looks like
yeah, but
somebody came up with the idea. They ran to the White House and they just announced it, and then everybody's saying, "Okay, we got to start
yeah,
working on it."
I'd say, yeah. Was it a half baked plan that yeah, I'm just going back at the FAQ. There's no update. It says
It's
USCIS will
it's
soon publish.
it's lined up next to the pilot program, the H1B pilot
Yeah,
program.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. So next one.
Yes, sir. Here we are. Data shows that there are approximately 54,000 EB2 and EB3 I-485s with priority dates before 2014. Rest of the world demand is high, so it doesn't seem we'll get a horizontal spill around. So I guess maybe RK is looking at the inventory of
Yeah, but well, yeah, but the 54 EB2 EB3,
that's years worth of
that's insanity.
yeah. Again, I haven't looked at that report, but that's what it seems like it is. It is if that's inventory of cases at USCIS. Well, I'm going to go back and quote that. I think it's that FAQ from USCIS I think it's like September 2023. It's yep, we have years worth of cases, adjustment of status cases in our inventory from India. So have fun with that, world. It kind of makes me want to look up those employment based that website, that employment based adjustment of status FAQs. They sneaky in the middle of the night. Sometimes they update those things, and
And they
I'm
don't
always
tell you
surprised.
they did. Yeah, you
Yeah,
almost need some kind of a tracker on it, some kind of
yeah,
crawler to see what changes it's made.
yeah. I'm seeing as the last update on this one being May 20th, 2024 per Google. So it doesn't seem like they've snuck in anything recently. But it's a fun little website where there's just all sorts of good reading and little nuggets in there for us to pick apart. But
Yeah,
nothing there as of right
recent
now.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, um, from Shandi. The domestic violence charges that I mentioned above got dismissed, and I would like to know the impact on H-1B extensions and visa stamping.
Well,
Whew.
H1B extension and H1B visa stamping. So um, dismissal does not get you out of the woods. Dismissal is good news.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Um, Potentially, um, there is enough damage in the record. Potentially not. So it has to be. We have to look at it. Where it's pretty bad is the statement made by the victim, typically the spouse or the girlfriend,
mhm,
which is oftentimes public record.
yep,
And she says, he slapped me on my face, he hit me on my head, here are the bruises.
mhm,
And then the following statement by the officer: I observed bruises on her face, I observed this, that, I arrested the guy or I arrested the girl. Um, and then the victim later on feels too terribly bad about the spouse is going to get deported and withdraws their, and that's the typical scenario. I don't know anything about your case.
yeah,
Withdraws their charges. They go to the prosecutor and they say, I don't want to press charges.
yep,
And the
yep,
prosecutor loses their witness, the only witness, because that witness does not want to testify and they don't want to put pressure to break up the family.
mhm,
And the case is dismissed. But it doesn't mean your problems are over. Now, if these charges were completely false and the hypothetical we threw in is not in any way, shape, or form remotely close to your situation, I apologize for not addressing your question. But that's the normal C that we see. So a dismissal does not
yeah.
solve the problem in many cases.
I mean, they can ask questions about cases that are ultimately dismissed. How would these things manifest for me? H-1B extension, they can ask about that. It's very rare that they ask about criminal matters in H-1B petitions, but it has happened. I've seen it happen a handful of times, and frankly, I don't give it that great a chance of coming up in an H-1B extension. And here's how I know. Well, here's how I would guess that. We will have employees that are long-term employees of our clients. We'll do several H-1B extensions for them, and then when it gets time for a green card, they'll go, Brian, I need to talk to you. I need I need to I have to answer yes in this on this green card form about this case, and it never came up in an H-1B extension, and we didn't know about it because it only came up in you're only getting asked about it for the first time in your green card filing. But uh,
Different story.
visa stampings, there's gonna be a question directly to you that is gonna say, "Have you ever been arrested?" Or "Have you ever been arrested?" And they're gonna ask, "What for?" And
Cited, charged,
yep,
convicted.
yep. And you will definitely. I imagine those are some tough questions. There's some fun questions to answer. Were you arrested? Well, probably, I would guess, if you had a domestic violence charge. But sometimes you can get cited, and well, do you meet do you have to answer that question yes? And if you answer that question yes, they're going to ask you about it. They could ask for records, and the folks at the consulate, they sure do have broad discretion. When you are outside of the United States, you are just some guy or gal at the consulate, somebody applying to come to the United States, and those consular officers have broad authority to deny or at very least delay the issuance of visas, and that's something that would worry me for sure. You know, I guess is the bottom line is there's factual questions underlying this case which Sam and I don't have the answers to. You're Sam giving a scenario. Your hypothetical scenario is somebody filed complained charges are filed, and then they recanted, said I'm not testifying against so and so. But the other scenario could be I don't know, something that's more sympathetic than your scenario. And I mean, I've dealt with scenarios like this where I fundamentally tell people you are at risk if you go leave the country and I have to apply for stamping because you know they can tell you no. And
And this is going to swing largely based on the officer. I mean, we've had officers that says, "Oh, you've had a conviction, 221G,
yeah,
uh, and if they issue 221G on the spot and not ask you more questions, you're lucky
yeah,
because here's where you're not lucky. Tell me what happened.
uh,
Now you have to tell the story, and
yeah,
then 221G, and then he will add on the bottom, give me all documents related that you have in your possession. Blah blah blah. That's not good news. But if he does 221G because he wants to go check on their own, that's good news in my opinion because all he's going to look up online, oh, case dismissed, okay, I move on,
yeah,
done. But if they are going to go dig deeper and ask you to produce record, then this is going to get ugly because some of the stuff you have to produce may not be pretty.
yeah. I mean, dismiss
And
charges. Go
and
ahead.
we've
I'm
had,
sorry.
yeah, and we've had it both ways. So I've had a scenario where somebody was dating a girl and had a domestic violence with her, and he was on a student visa. Went back, they checked online. Oh, you're dating one of our girls in America, and what did you do to her? It says here you struck her. Uh, Not in a million years. I'm going to bring you back to the U.S., boy. And he was a guy. She happened to be a female officer, and she took a personal offense to him. And then I've had another situation where there was a domestic violence, pretty nasty. And the, like I said, issued to 21G, didn't ask any questions, and came back. Case was dismissed, issued the visa, no problem. So the only scenario in which you're guaranteed a revocation of your visa and a total investigation is drunk driving
Yeah,
because it's in the
you
foreign
get you
affairs
get you get an email about that. Yeah,
foreign affairs manual that says, "Hey, drunk driving, potential future danger to others. We need to put a stop to this." So domestic violence case, it's 50. It can go either way if it's dismissed.
yeah.
All right, next one.
From RK here, some sort of commentary on what I was commenting on. I think because the kids have a relationship with that J1 parent, unlike the
Thank you.
parents where the divorce termination terminates the
Thank you so
relationship.
much, RK. I did not want to talk too much about it because we've given it a lot of time, but RK is right on the money. That relationship is not terminated, and therefore the visa is not waived.
I still don't like it. I still,
No, 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 no.
oh,
Oh, it's
we're
horrible. It's horrible because you know what happens?
yeah,
Kids come in at young age, 4 years and 3 years old.
mhm,
They get J1, J2,
mhm,
then they leave.
mhm.
The father never satisfied the 2 year foreign residency requirement. Okay. Because he has to go back to the home country where the J visa is
Oh,
issued.
I see.
He
He
has to
goes.
satisfy.
He just screws off on his status
Yeah, it goes
yeah,
out. So you have no evidence of satisfying it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then the kids are 21, 24, 29 years old.
Applying for some other
And they
sort of
say,
visa.
"Oh, Dad, were we on J1, J2 visa when we were 3 years old in America? The council telling me I cannot get a visa now."
Yeah. Well,
All right.
that requires father to have just basically abandon his J status and never leave the country is the in that scenario, right?
Well, the requirement is to go back to the origin where the J visa
Oh yeah.
is
Okay, I
issued.
see what
So
you're
you
saying.
have, like, if you, let's say you were issued in Jordan, so you really have to go back to Jordan to satisfy the 2 year foreign residency requirement, the strict interpretation of it. You have to show that there was employment or some kind of work that you've done. But let's move on here as it's 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we'll
Maybe
try to.
take one more. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So from Sonia. Good evening. My priority date of 2014 August on EB2 India. I'm planning to file EB5. If I file EB5, am I able to retain my EB2 priority date? My recollection is no on this one. Yeah,
Correct. Yes.
yeah. which is a bummer. Uh, but I guess I would note, depends upon, your priority date, depending upon where your EB5 investment is. If you're investing in a rural or high unemployment area, unless they changed it for the July visa bulletin, which I don't think they did because
No, they
as I look
haven't.
at it, your priority date would be current. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last question is from Dragon Warrior, which is a good name because it reminds me of video games, and I won't talk anymore about that subject. But any news slash update on the domestic visa renewal program expansion? And we kind of touched upon this earlier, where I crassly called it a kamikaze pilot program because it's never coming back. Sam, what do you think about that program? Was it just a big publicity stunt for President Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States?
Embarrassingly so, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, um, I guess you've educated me in the past, Sam. It used to be possible a long time ago to get visa stamping inside the
Oh
United
yeah.
States.
Oh yeah. Common. It was very common.
Up until around like year 2000, something like that.
I don't remember, but yeah, then they stopped it. It was
Yeah.
very common. Yeah, long time ago. No
I,
problem.
I guess I guess I don't say it could never come back, but uh,
Obviously, it worked and was successful.
yeah,
A lot of people get
uh,
stamps.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The last I'm seeing, I'm not seeing any news on that. I just did a quick Google search, not a lick of news. Anytime in the recent, the only thing is going back to. Then again, Sam, how long did the program go? Did it end in like May? Did the program end in May? Because
No,
I'm pretty sure they had like multiple slots under it, right?
I don't remember the dates, Brian. If I want to remember the dates.
Well, I don't remember the dates either, but I recall there being multiple slots on it, and I'm gonna
Yes,
come
they
up
were. Yes,
come up
yeah.
with a reason to have hope that maybe it takes them a little bit of time to wrap up and analyze and the results of that program, which again I thought ended in May, to come up with the full version that they're definitely going to roll out and make everybody happy with it.
I hope so.
Resolve a lot of stress for a lot of people. Uh,
Well, it helped solve a lot of problems.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, sir.
Well, thank
Uh,
you, Brian.
yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully, this was helpful. Come back 6 o'clock Eastern time every Monday, and we'll do this one more time. Maybe we'll have a topic. Maybe we'll have more on the what did the Biden administration do for us as immigrants? Do
Nothing.
we
Nothing.
encourage voting for? I'll now leave with that thought. There's a lot of push in the immigrant community. I see certain immigrant community feel strongly towards Trump. Others feel strongly towards Biden. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I didn't see him helping immigrants too many times. Um,
I mean, Sam, I can think. I mean, it's very hard for me to think of ones where it helped. I mean, think about the ones going after people who undoing naturalizations when people couldn't, documentation of where you were born. Going after people who had trouble documenting they were born in the United States, undoing those citizenship applications. Remember those? The people like born in like the Southwest, dubious as to whether or not they were U.S. citizens where they were born, coming after those. It's about that. I mean, that's pure policy. It's about who you put in charge. It's nothing they did in the law, but it's about what are you prioritizing going after.
right. Where are you spending your money on? What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Issuing EADs or going after these people.
yeah.
Remember, the EADs get delayed significantly, and the green cards because
Well,
they lost that contract to issue green cards and EAD cards
I
because that
mean,
money ran out was spent on something else.
think of the H4 EAD thing, Sam, where it basically used to be they added biometrics to H4, which you
But they
know,
but the administration did defend H4 EAD. The Trump administration.
did they?
Yep,
Did
they did.
they?
Yep.
Is it the Save Our Jobs did that finish up during the? Well,
No, no, they continued through, but they did not withdraw. They could have easily withdraw their representation and conceded the
well,
case, but they
I,
didn't.
I guess yeah. I guess the fundamental
But it's this is the Justice Department. This is although it's the administration, but it's kind of more a little bit more independent.
yeah.
But we can talk more about that next week.
We can talk about yes to the end of time. That's for sure, Sam.
Yep.
I would